Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdates 220811.5. Not going to lie, it's quite a sight watching a super morbidly obese person get bombarded with enough phase cannon fire that closely resembles the end facial of a gangbang. Dainty does, after all, take it quite well. Hello everyone and welcome to the exhibition of stupid people. Yeah, it's too hot again. Sorry about that, folks. So we're going to start with She-Hulk. I'm actually a fan of the comics for She-Hulk. Have been for most of my life. Not really looking forward to the TV show, but that's not because of the show itself. It's because I moved away from superhero content. Recently, via BuzzFeed, the She-Hulk creators discussed the show's questionable CGI, and they made a good point. Oh, I can hardly wait for this good point. But then again, apparently this good point really does show you how badly sheepleized people are. And that might sound like a made-up word. It totally isn't. It may as well be what it is. A tautology as well, apparently. In the sense that you will keep going, or you will keep playing, you will keep watching, because you love that brand even when that brand is shite. Remember when the more recent Fallout came out, and an update had to be made? The update was bigger than the original game file because the original game wasn't ready. But people still bought the limited edition set because it's Fallout! Yeah, that kind of bollocks applies here as well. When it comes to the subject of visual effects, many can say Marvel have done an okay job at it for a long time. There have been recent accusations from visual effects professionals who discussed the mistreatment at the hands of Marvel, which in turn led to an increased call for unionization. When someone has a monopoly on a certain market, like Disney does, it is understandable you're going to want a union of some kind to ensure you are being treated fairly, as Disney are well known for underpaying all of their staff in almost every walk of life. It is by extension understandable. So for context, the recent trailer for the upcoming Disney Plus series was criticized by many for the visual effects surrounding the show's protagonist, Jennifer Walters, with some pointing out that She-Hulk CGI reminds them of the Scorpion King. I would, for the sake of it, like to believe that the CGI for She-Hulk is better than Scorpion King because that movie is a lot older. Then again, if it's comparable, there is a chance here someone hasn't learnt their lesson. Over the past few weeks, stories from people who've worked on Marvel's visual effects began to emerge, painting a picture of unreasonable deadlines, grueling work hours, and even bullying. Oh, like Blizzard. So when talking about the look of She-Hulk, the lead actress said, "I feel incredibly deferential to how talented these artists are and how quickly they have to work. Obviously much quicker than should be given to them. I know there's a lot of eyes on the CG and critique or whatever. I do think we have to be super conscious of how work conditions aren't always optimal and that they've always made these amazing strides in the industry and the tech." Producer Kat something echoed the thoughts of the actress by saying, "We stand in solidarity. The truth is we work with them, but we're not behind the scenes on these long nights and days. It's just a massive undertaking to have a show of this scale where the main character is CG. It is a blah 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 blah." Yeah, it goes on with platitude crap. Producer Kat then went on to talk about women's bodies, because that's the real problem here. The problem Marvel has is a problem Disney has imposed upon them, and then Marvel by extension onto their employees. The problem is quite simply they are expecting too much, too fast, too soon, and in doing so, make it seem like they're willing to cut corners or reduce the quality of the product just to get it out there. With the push for Phase 4 and Phase 5, with Marvel that is, they want to try and get these series right, so when they call these heroes up, if any at all, to the movie stage, they are as ready as they can be, so that then when they're on the bigger screen, they are, let's say, ready to go, in the sense that they've got the technique down to create She-Hulk. This isn't rocket science after all, but this is very difficult and complex. With the accusations of bullying now being levied at Marvel, it's quite impressive no one's talking about it as much as they did when it came to Blizzard. And there's a reason why. When you really do have a monopoly on an industry, it's hardly a shocker that no one hears about your failings. Failings that really do shine a negative light on shows, especially when you see a trailer and the quality doesn't quite look right. But as this mock-up image here says, it doesn't matter at this point, sad adult nerds will watch whatever we make whether we try hard or not. For the next subject, I'd like to give you something chuckle-worthy concerning the console peasants. I'm one of them, but don't worry folks, as I do most of my work on the computer, I rarely have time to be a console peasant. PS5 players have stopped playing their consoles because they're going outside instead. Now I thought when I saw this on Twitter that it was a PO. I thought it was a joke. Turns out, no, it bloody well isn't, and there are two separate articles on this that I'd like to go through, one of which is the article with the image explaining why, and another giving additional context as to the effect felt by other console manufacturers. So first, the Independent. PlayStation 5 consoles are not being used as much because people are going outside, Sony has said. During the pandemic, the PS5 was arguably the most coveted gadget in the world. Huge demand and issues with supply meant there was a booming market for the console, leading resale prices to shoot up and sending people on vast quests to try and find them. But as restrictions relax, people are playing those consoles less. Well, imagine my shock. Try and colour me surprised that when lockdown ended, people would find something else to do with their time, like go to work, hang out with your friends, maybe go fraternize with the subordinates down at the local tavern. During lockdown, it was nigh on impossible to get a PS5. It was getting increasingly difficult to get a new graphics card. Not surprising when vast numbers of factories were shut down. Some YouTubers had actually managed to get more than one PlayStation 5 and they had actually raffled them off as gifts. That was amazing. PlayStation 5s are expensive enough. If you were furloughed, you were somewhat lucky, but then you didn't have overtime and you weren't getting full pay. For someone like myself, I threw myself into YouTube. Since lockdowns have ended, my views have gone back to pre-lockdown levels, something which I have to actively work to improve. We have all felt a negative consequence in some manner. So during this summer, gameplay time fell 15%. It improved slightly in June, with time up 3% compared with the previous month, but it was still down 10% on June 2021. In June 2021, many countries were still in lockdown. This is their first proper summer, where some can actually go somewhere, do something for themselves, R&R, without being stuck playing the same monotonous shite games that exist, where you're all stuck on zonal maps doing PvP because no one gives a fuck about single player anymore. And in before someone says it, you're only saying that, Meg, because you can't play that. Of course I'm saying it because I can't play that. Thank you for stating the fucking obvious. The company noted in the results that this is much lower level engagement than we anticipated. Somebody set their standards far too high, I think. Now how does this affect other manufacturers? Well, it turns out game companies themselves, some of whom use those same zonal map shite games, have suffered too. Call of Duty, for example, is having a torrid time, which will likely be affecting PlayStation's engagement statistics. The franchise saw its active players dwindle from 127 million Russian bots to just 94 million Russian bots. That is a 33 million active user decline. Those are more than likely the actual players who played properly and weren't being completely cheated out of a win by hackers, i.e. the Russian bots. Other companies mentioned include Activision Blizzard's numbers. They've been on a downward spiral since March of 2021, and this is now the lowest they have been since 2019. It is safe to assume that the reduction of lockdown restrictions plays a major part. However, for Blizzard, Activision, there are other issues there. According to the MPD data in the US, overall spend in the sector slumped by 13% in the most recent quarter, falling a dramatic $1.78 billion year over year. The cost of living crisis is not helping this, with many more people being concerned about their bills than the latest tentpole AAA video game. Understandably so, if you don't have the lecky, you're hardly going to have the ability to play a shite map zonal bullshit game. And again, before someone says you just need to get good, you first. Do tell me how you get on when you've had an aneurysm. To the final story, we're going to go to Amazon's Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, a series that has courted a fair amount of controversy, the most obvious one being the fact that the dwarven women don't have beards, which I still find quite interesting. Amazon have explained that the reason why is because they've got to separate from the original source material a little while being respectful at the same time, which is a valid point and leads us to Peter Jackson, who was actually trending on Twitter, because originally Amazon had asked him to be involved in this prequel series. The plan was for them to send him scripts so he could then understand what they were trying to do and his involvement within it. But then they never sent him the scripts. Now from Peter Jackson we found out that they've been doing this as far back as 2019-2018, but then they never took it any further, never sent him any information, and while he holds no ill feeling, many people have started to say perhaps you should have, because while he took liberties with The Hobbit and with the Lord of the Rings trilogies, we might have gotten something a little closer to the source material, but that might have violated the, the agreement between the Tolkien Trust, Foundation, family thing, cult group, I don't know what you call that part, and with the fan base as well. And this has since been confirmed by Amazon, who had explained that in pursuing the rights for the show, they were obligated to keep the series distinct and separate from the films. We have the utmost respect for Peter Jackson and the Lord of the Rings films, and are thrilled that he is looking forward to watching The Rings of Power. Well, someone has to be. People are already poking many holes at it from the trailers and some of the information already out there. I especially love the image of someone wearing chainmail on top of chainmail. That's interesting. Double mail. Does it cancel each other out? It's gotten so bad with people poking at the holes they've seen so far that many are not interested in it, but I guess if we go back to the original sheepleized comment I made, chances are this series will absolutely smash it, and even if it doesn't, it won't matter. They're going to get 5 seasons of it anyway, because that's the agreement with all the money they've thrown at it. When you have so much money you can keep throwing it, you run the risk of making the mistakes of Netflix. And yet some refuse to learn. But of course, we should never judge something until we've seen it with our own eyes. That is how it should be, right? It's not like the trailer does a really bad job painting the picture already. I just hoped that, much like with Sonic when they separated his eyes, perhaps with all the backlash about the dwarven women not having beards, perhaps they'd slap one on the Queen. Just CG. Just do a better job than the Justice League movie did removing Henry Cavill's mustache.